Every child learns differently, and understanding the way your child learns can really make a difference to their progress. As parents, we genuinely and generally want what's best for our children. And when it comes to their academic results, we want them to do the best they possibly can. A key is to understanding their learning style. Learning is important. Our children generally go to school or college, but the reason why they go to school, the main reason is to learn. Yes, they make friends. Also, they socialize, they learn different skills. But the main thing is that they need to learn so that they can have good grades and also that will result in a brighter future. So there are three different learning styles: visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. Visual learners usually respond to visual cues. So, for example, they might want to create mind maps when they're learning. Auditory learners usually respond to auditory cues, so they might want to listen to something. That's how they learn best. And kinesthetic learners usually learn through movement. So, for example, doing role plays. One of the helpful ways to find out about your child's best learning styles is to observe them when they're studying. For example, do they like to draw diagrams? Are they keen to read? Are they keen to write, etc.? If your child prefers to color code their notes or to create mind maps or to draw, then they're highly likely to be mainly a visual learner. If your child likes to listen, so they like to listen to podcasts or audiobooks or even listen to educational videos, then they're highly likely to be auditory learners. If your child likes to move around, if they're studying, they like to just touch different things, or they like to move around or walk around the room, or they like to act things out, like for example, in a role play, then they're likely to be mainly kinesthetic learners. If your child is mainly a visual learner, then there's some strategies that might help them make progress in their learning. So, for example, perhaps when they're revising, you might encourage them to create flashcards that they can revisit. When I was studying in school, one of the things that I did was I created flashcards and I put them around my room. I had a study room at the time. And then I also put them around my living room. And I also put them around my kitchen as well. And what I did is every day, whether it's when I came back from school or at the weekend, I would walk around every room and I would look at every single flashcard and I would read it. And what that helped me to do was to retain the crucial information that I needed to know for my exam. Now, another helpful strategy is to highlight their notes. So they might like to use different color pens or different highlighters to highlight their notes. Now, it's very important that they literally don't just color the page in, that they highlight the key bits of information. I remember when I was studying for my A-levels and I felt like I was studying for a particular topic and I felt that everything that was on that page was important. So I literally highlighted it in different colors. And I remember going back to my class, it was a revision class, and one of my classmates said, literally, you just colored everything in. And here's me thinking that, I actually had a really good revision session, private revision session at home. I actually learned that my strategy, the strategy that I was using, I wasn't using it in a most effective way. So I would encourage, when you're highlighting or using this method, maybe choose about 3 pieces of information per page that is really important, and then only and exclusively highlight those. Strategies for auditory learners are listening to podcasts. So if you find that there's a podcast available that's within the topic area or the subject area that your son or daughter is revising for their exams, then it will be helpful to point them in that direction so that they can actually listen to the podcast. Also, another strategy is to allow them to record their notes. So what they could do is have a recorder or even use their phone and literally just read through key information in their notes, and then every day just play it back. And the more they play it back, the more the information is being retained in their memory. Another strategy is listening to audiobooks. So for English, there's a few key texts that students need to know for their exams. And most of these, if not all of these, are available via audiobooks. So what they could do is to listen to the audiobook version as often as they're able to, and then that should help them to retain the key information that they need to know in preparation for their exam. If you find that they're mainly kinesthetic learners, then you could, for example, act out a particular scene in a particular text that they need to know for the English exam. Or if they prefer not to do role plays, maybe after an hour study session, you might encourage them to walk around for like 10 or 15 minutes, maybe go outside, get a bit of fresh air, and then they'll come back to the next study session refreshed and ready to go. The tip here is to be flexible, because although your son or daughter may have a main learning style, they could also dip into other learning styles as well. So they don't need to rigidly stick to one particular learning style. For example, I mentioned that I used to do flashcards and I put them up visually. So I was a mainly visual learner, and I would constantly read them every single day so that I can retain the information. But I was also interested in auditory learning as well. So sometimes I would record my notes and play it back to myself so that I can hear myself speaking the key information that I actually needed to know. So the key is to be flexible, communicate openly, and allow them to actually pursue the learning style or the activities that they feel that they're most comfortable with at that particular time. So remember, every child is different, every child is unique and learns differently. So what's really important is that you find out what their main learning style is, and the way you can do that is to observe them in their study sessions, also communicate with them as well, find out what they found particularly helpful, find out which study sessions they particularly enjoyed and why, and that should help you to be on the right track to finding out what their main learning style is. So if you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up, and please do share with other parents who you think might be interested in the content that I've shared with you today. Also, please subscribe, and until next time, happy studying.